Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Tradesman Experience. This is the podcast built by tradesmen for tradesmen, where we discuss business, culture, leadership, and the mindset it takes to build a business and life you're proud of. My name is Josh. Let's get into it and let's get shit done. So this week I got to spend a couple days in the service truck. By the way, I just want to let everybody know that I have happily eaten crow because I said years ago that I would never get back into the service truck as an HVAC technician.
Yes.
And when I left that industry, years ago, I staked to that claim for all the wrong reasons. And now we're doing it for all of the right reasons. But where our shop is at and the business that we bought in the location, coming up in my career, I drove to that town for 10 years or more. So as I was making my driving the same route in a service truck to do the same thing I did years ago, I had to laugh because it was not only nostalgic. I had this great kind of moment of awareness, a great moment of perspective. And that was, I realized how simple it is. Not easy, but simple. And huge difference, but coming up through the ranks and, I remembered back when my biggest obstacle was just trying to get good at the craft. And then the obstacle was having to communicate with the client. And then the obstacle was trying to collect money. And then it was like this lather, rinse, repeat cycle of continuing to get better. And then I was a service manager and I was a terrible service manager. And then, I done sales and then I was a foreman and I've done all this shit. And the perspective that I gained is how close I always looked at stuff. Like, it's right in front of me. This is the biggest problem. It's so hard right now.
Yep.
And once you become a business owner, and I've said this often on here, until you've become a business owner, you have zero perspective of what it means to be a business owner. Because you can't look across at a business owner and understand what they see. For good or bad, better or worse, no stake to claim of superiority on this. The reality is you don't know what you don't know until you've experienced it. Well, fast forward to today where, ownership and leadership and coaching and all of the stuff that we do now. When I was driving that service truck to the shop in the morning to check in and get my calls and go over the schedule, understanding how simple it was and how complicated I made it back then. Because the perspective is now is, if I just got up every day and I got into a service truck, or I put a tool belt on, or turned on the welder, doesn't matter. The reality is it's simple, not easy. You have one job to do. And a couple days this week during clock hour, I had one job to do. And that was complete the call to the best of my ability and take care of the customer and solve their problem and go to the next one. Do it efficiently, do it profitably, be a professional, and that's it. That's my job.
Besides feeling humbled, how else did you feel? Or what else did you feel?
Yeah, I like that question. I felt no pressure talking to the customer. And the reason I say that is I remember that sense of fear or stress or anxiety when you now have to go present the solution and the cost to the customer.
Real.
It's and get them to accept the fact that this is the best decision that they can make and this is how much it's going to cost.
And trust you in the process.
I had no stress, no pressure, no anxiety, no fear. And I think a lot of that comes with experience. A lot of that comes with confidence. But the confidence aspect of it was, for me, is, again, it was so simple. This is the problem. This is the solution. This is how much it cost. And it was literally that cut and dry. And I explained what was going on. I showed them what was going on. and let them know what that total cost was going to be. And then that's me doing my job. I have no control over what they say. So I can't stress about whether or not they're going to accept. I can only emphasize the fact that I trust my diagnostic and this is what's going on. So I didn't feel that stress and pressure. I did feel like just a high sense of confidence that I'm going to leave here regardless of the outcome, knowing that I did them the best possible service that I can give them and that I truly believe that anybody else can give them.
So what you're saying is you controlled what you could control to the best of your ability. And you didn't get stressed about the things that you can't control?
Not at all.
What a concept.
But how difficult is that to embody?
Oh my God. I laugh like it's a joke, but that sums up life. We spend so much time stressing about things that we can't control and looking at them so close, feeling like it's the biggest problem. Just focus on the things you can control. In your environment, right here and now, what is it that you can control? You can either use your energy and focus towards things you can control, or you can use that energy focusing on things that you can't control, the unknown, and the things that make you scared or nervous, which is usually the unknown. Or the things you can't control because what if, right? Focus on the things you can control. You have a better chance either way.
The number one thing that I know I can control and that I focused on controlling was creating the experience. And I know I say that a lot and it probably sounds hokey, but
it used to. Doesn't anymore.
When I walk into somebody's house and I reach down and I put those plastic shoe covers on, it would be difficult for me to explain to you how many tens of thousands of times I've done that. Since 2001, have I rarely ever walked into a customer's house and not put those on my feet.
It's just habit now.
I feel guilty if I don't. And every customer's like, you don't have to put those on. You don't have to put those on. I still put them on because to me, it's part of my routine to make that call successful.
And your standard.
And my standard. And now I want it to be their standard.
Mm-hmm. Because the next person that comes in can be like, why didn't this son of a bitch put on his booties? Even though I told the last guy he didn't have to.
And that's what
Good
I can
play,
control.
Sir.
So one of the calls I ran into, we had literally a switch that melted down internally. It damaged some wires. It damaged some other controls. So I had everything priced and laid out, and I presented it to the customer, and I said, this is what I found. This is what we need to do to repair it. This repairs this much money. This is this much money. This is this much money. And he was like, I said, what would you like me to do? And he was like, well, we have to fix it. I said, Bill is his name. I said, Bill, I said, I understand that we have to fix it, but I didn't want to do it without your approval. And it caught him off guard when I said that. And then he was...
Well, because he's used to somebody just fixing it and then handing him the bill, right?
That's right. That's right. And
then he gets to be surprised and huff and puff about how much it costs. You can huff and puff about how much you want it to cost, but then we don't fix it. And then it's giving them the power to make the decision, right?
And that's it. And his response, he kind of looked at me and his response was, I appreciate that. That was his words exactly. And now
that's awesome.
I've already shot the elephant in the room, right? We've already addressed the price. We've already handled the money situation. So now I got to go do what was easy. I got to go do my job. Of course, I'm laying on the ground upside down in the furnace and the way these controls are, and Bill would come out and basically laugh at me. I told him, I said, if you hear me snoring, just give me a kick. I said, I'll get this thing fixed before I leave. And we had that camaraderie and we had that trust. And multiple times throughout that whole interaction, that whole experience, I mean, he brought up different points like the shoe covers, the thoroughness, the explanation. And by the time I left, we were best friends. It's
how it should be.
It's simple, not easy, but I just go ahead.
Don't you say it's always about how You make the customer
Yep.
feel, not
They
what you
don't they
did.
don't remember what you do. They always remember how you make them feel. And I've embodied that principle for years and years and years. And when I understood that as a technician years ago, that was why I believe that creating the experience for the customer is what separates you from everybody else. It makes you different. It makes us different. I'm not claiming that we're better, but I am claiming that we're different. And we'll do 100 little things different than the next guy.
That's all the little things that add up.
Cleaning up after myself. I put a new thermostat on. I mean, I wash my hands, but you know how it is. Like, you get smudges on the wall. I was in there with a hand wiping cloth, cleaning the wall, the back plate, and the thermostat. I wanted no evidence that I was there. I literally got on my knees and cleaned the sheetrock dust up off the floor, the baseboard, and the outlet cover. You know what he said to me when I was doing that? You don't have to do that. I said,
Yep.
I know.
I'll take care of that. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, you don't have to do that. I said, I know. But I mean, but that was it. I wasn't going to argue with you. Oh, thanks, Bill. I appreciate that. I appreciate you guys cleaning up my mess. I didn't want to have to do it anyway. What? Are you fucking stupid?
That wasn't a you don't have to do that. That was a nice way of saying thank you for doing that.
That's right.
It was a different way of saying
Yeah.
thank you for doing that.
Yeah. And the other, to give you another answer to your question, I recognized deeply how important the standard is. And I had kind of lost touch with that. I mean, I talk about this stuff a lot, and I'm just not customer facing that often anymore.
It's
I
like riding
know
a bike.
it is, I understand the process. I understand the routine, and it's ingrained in me and will never leave. But I was reminded how important the standard is. I went to take care of a little old lady that was very disgruntled with some previous work that was done. She paid a lot of money. She didn't feel like she was taken care of. And I will tell you, the problem wasn't solved. So I went into that conversation focusing on what she wanted to focus on. Immediately, I started my whole process of engaging with the client. She didn't want nothing to do with me. She let me in, turn around, started walking straight to she didn't give a shit about my shoe covers. She didn't give a shit about my name. She knew that she had a problem and she was upset and wanted to solve. So what I did was I moved my routine. I'm going to get her to like me. I'm going to promise you that. But I didn't need to do it in the beginning. I needed to solve the problem that she saw as the problem. So I just focused where she wanted me to focus. I went back there and I dove both feet balls deep into her unit, and I got it fixed. And then after the fact, I got to sit down with her in her living room and made her my friend. So much to the point, I said, Shirley, I said, I know it's going to get cold tonight. I said, I'm going to call you tomorrow and check on you. I go through the whole day, and it was a busy day. It was awesome. We get done. I get done with all my calls. I get basically out of the van and I look and it's 4:30 and I went, shit, I forgot to call Shirley. So immediately I got into the calendar, got her phone number, called her from my cell phone, answered, told her who I was, and just called. She's like, that thing's running great, running like it's supposed to. I said, well, I just want to call and check on if you need anything. But again, it's the experience, but it's the standard that sets the experience. And with the theme of this conversation is, it's fucking simple. It's not easy, but it's so simple. You just got to do the best you can. Like,
Regardless of what it is.
Regardless of the situation, regardless of how much it costs, regardless of how you slept, regardless of anything. The moment that you get put in front of the thing that you are responsible for doing, nothing else matters. That's how I operate. I don't go, if I'm standing in front of a customer, I never touch my phone. I don't receive calls. I don't receive text messages. I don't even take it in with me until I start doing my work. I never have the opportunity for a disconnection with my customer. I leave my phone in the van until I start the process of just doing the hands-on. I don't let it distract me or the customer.
It's good practice.
But again, that's the standard. My standard, but it's the standard. It's so simple. So it was this really fun trip down memory lane with, there was road construction of PTSD over here, and I got to engage with customers, and and I got my ass kicked a couple times, and it was awesome.
That's awesome.
But having the opportunity to look back and recognize that I was the problem, my internal narrative, the things I believed, the external factors that I invited into my mindset, the things that I blamed.
Yeah, but back then the world was so much smaller, right?
Oh my God, too small.
So the problems were bigger. Then as you get older and wiser, the world gets bigger and the problems get smaller. So your simple is not everybody's simple, right? Because they haven't done it yet. But it wasn't so simple for you at one point.
That was the hardest thing ever.
Right. But once you got past it, it became simple. Like, it's no different from walking. You don't remember it because you were an infant, but walking was the biggest challenge of your life at one point. And then you do it, and then you forget about how easy it is. But if you had to go back and crawl and you didn't know how to walk, you'd quickly become quite humble on your situation, right? Like,
Greg,
wow, how great it is to walk.
I was crawling in a crawl space this weekend or this
There
week.
you go.
And I was like, and my knees were like, we're not doing this anymore. What are you doing? Use your feet, dummy.
Yeah, well,
very humbling.
Maybe appreciate your walk back to the van.
But I think
again,
that
back to the simple.
And it's the mindset of it, right? It's the self-imposing standard. And I think that there is a dichotomy there. You can be, if you're a high performer and you care about being good, you're always going to be hard on yourself. And I think that you should be harder on yourself than anybody else is. And if you're not, you need to reflect on that, because you're probably not, you don't have a high enough standard for yourself.
Fact. That's a fact. Because if somebody from the outside who doesn't know you, obviously as well as you know yourself, is pushing you harder than you're pushing yourself, that's your first internal red flag. I need to do better, because somebody from the outside is seeing just a piece of my not doing better and motivating me to do so. Doesn't mean you can't get perspective, which is different. A little motivation via perspective, somebody else's point of view, like, I didn't see it like that, or yeah, maybe this problem isn't big as I see it. But again, if somebody's harping on you for the same thing over and over, again, maybe you should reevaluate your standards.
Well, let me ask this question. When did not being the best at your job become the standard?
Oh my God. I don't know. I don't have the answer to that one. It frustrates the shit out of me because it's just programmed. It's in my DNA. Like, if you're going to do something, you do it. And you do it the best you can. It doesn't mean you have to like it or love it, but do it. And if it's something that is required to do in the short term, learn it and be the best you can at it. This whole, like, I get to pick and choose and complain about what I'm doing. I can't tell you how much stuff that I'm really freaking good at that I hate doing. Hate it. Absolutely hate it. But I know how to do it. And I'm good at it because it was put in front of me, it was presented to me at one point in life where that was the best option for me to do it, right? Like, I'm not the CEO of a grand company. I'm an apprentice. And I can't just walk into the trade being that. I have to be the apprentice. So I have to do all the terrible things that are required of an apprentice because, one, you learn all aspects of your craft and trade and other trades, and you learn the things that you like to do and the things you hate to do. So you get wiser and figure out, okay, well, how do I get in a position where I don't have to do the things that I hate to do and I get to do the things that I like to do? But you still have to do them. And I think you should know how to do everything to, or at least have a general understanding of how to do absolutely everything that you expect of somebody else. That's just my opinion. Other people say, delegate it to somebody and don't worry about it. But at the same time, you should have a general understanding of whatever that is that you're asking to delegate. Anything that you're delegating, you should have a basic I don't know how to. I'm not a plumber. I'm not a licensed plumber. Do I know how to do a fair amount of plumbing? Yes. Why? Because it has a direct correlation and connection to my trade. So I want to understand so I can see ahead or see through a problem, not be like, well, I don't know what to do here until the plumber gets here. Like I know what the plumber's got to do, so I can call the plumber and say, hey, here's the situation. You got a 1/2-inch line in the wall. I think that if you went down to the basement, a couple of 90s, grab these parts, come fix this, it'd be no problem. Instead of just being like, I'll come back when the plumber fixes it. I don't know what to do. Like, let's help people help you.
But you have to do that by learning and helping yourself.
You do that, right. You do that by learning. But again, I'm not a plumber. I don't really want to be a plumber. But I know enough. And again, like the whole standard of like not being the best at whatever you do, I mean, you have to push yourself. If you're not growing, you're dying.
And I've been very, very guilty of that mindset. And that's why I'm speaking on this from experience. I've been in a position where I blamed the company. I blamed the owner. I blamed the manager. And not to say that they weren't part of the problem, but I was focusing on the wrong thing.
You're focusing on the problem, not the solution.
I was focusing, yes, in the fact that I was the problem. But the problem behind the problem was that I was allowing all of these external factors to dictate my beliefs, thoughts, and narrative.
And we've all been there. Anybody who says otherwise is a liar.
And you project, right? And you point fingers and you blame, and it's not your fault. And I hate that I was ever that immature and ignorant, but it was necessary for me to think the way that I think today.
Of course. It's taken me a long time to get past a lot of that. That's been one of the hardest things for me is I pour myself into people and I try to help people and see the better side of people, but the ones that are always looking for the easy exit or the somebody else to blame instead of a little bit of self-reflection, I'm on the receiving end of that. And my entire team is. And that's unfortunate because I strive to have an amazing team, and no matter what I do, and you find one guy who's got something's going on at home, something's going on in his life, and it's dragging him down. And he won't look in the mirror. He won't say I'm the problem. He'll point the finger at me and tell me I'm the problem and tell me everybody else in the company that here's the reason why I'm leaving because Greg's the problem. But I know that's not a reality, and that's more what hurts me than the person leaving. You want to leave, leave. Best of luck, I did what I could for you, and I know that. But the fact that you want to burn the house down on the way out because you simply can't just look in the mirror and say, maybe there's something I can frickin' do better. And I give miles of opportunity, and I never let it go unnoticed. But if you're an employee of a company or a leader of whatever, wherever you are in a company, and you see a problem, you can focus on the problem and dwell on it and build up whatever crap you want against whoever you have to build it up against to justify, or you can say, all right, here is what I see as the problem. What can I do to better myself and make them understand that I'm doing better or trying to solve a problem instead of complaining about a problem? And it's not that hard. Yes, it takes discipline. It takes a little bit of willpower or a lot of it. But the result is always better. Because what's the worst case scenario if you try? Somebody doesn't notice at the company you work for or the clients you're working for. Somebody's going to notice. Other people will notice. And it'll come full circle. You'll find a new somebody that they taught, you're the talk of the town. You might not hear it or see it, but you quit this guy because he doesn't recognize what your talents are, but somebody else does. But if you're the guy, again, we just talked about this, if you're the guy that bitches and complains and leaves, guess what they're going to hear about? That dude's lazy. He's been on 3 jobs and all he does is complain about the management. You ever think to complain about yourself?
Mm-hmm.
I complain about myself all the freaking time. 90%, even when it's not my problem, I still consider myself the problem. I have to have other people tell me from the outside, like, dude, there's nothing you could do to fix this. And I'm like, no, there is. I can defeat this.
Well, I think
but
that
I'd rather be like that 10 out of 10 times.
As would I. And that's why being able to reflect and have the perspective and recognize that my career could have been even better had I been better.
Hindsight.
And hindsight's terrible, right? It's perfect vision. Mm-hmm. But I say perfect vision. It's still, you can still manipulate it to feed your narrative.
Of course.
But knowing that, man, I allowed myself, again, so much external influence because my lens was so narrow. And I think a lot of people experience that. But my lens was so narrow. My circle was too broad, too big. So I had too many voices. And if you're taking it, if you're getting, there's a difference between getting someone's advice and getting someone's opinion.
There's a lot less advice out there than there is opinions.
That's right. Advice comes from experience. Opinion comes from their perspective in the thing. Right. And you can extract good information from opinions occasionally, but advice comes from experience. Well, I would take a lot of opinions as advice, and I would try to implement it into my own thing. And then again, this is not an external problem. This is an internal problem. This is me trying to constantly find other things to improve except myself. When I got on my, when I turned around 30, when I started my personal growth journey, that's when you're like, oh, no wonder none of that worked.
When you realize how stupid you are.
I'm the nucleus of this fucking catastrophe.
Problem.
God.
Yeah. I mean, there's one thing that I respect probably more than anything is when somebody openly admits that they screwed up. Like straight up. It's like, no, like, well, maybe like straight up, like, dude, I did this thing. This is what happened. I screwed it up. I'm sorry. I'm like, cool. You know what the best part about that is, besides the honesty? Is the fact that you admitted to yourself that you're an idiot. You didn't justify or to come up with some other problem, because what that does in your brain is actually tells you that it wasn't your fault, that you didn't do it, so you don't learn from it. You actually believe that it wasn't your fault. You know inside that it was your fault, but you choose to tell yourself, your self-talk is saying, I didn't do that. It's not my fault, it's somebody else's fault. So your brain's like, well, if it's not my fault, then I don't have to worry about screwing that up again. The humbling part about admitting it is knowing, like, okay, I'm a dope, screwed this up. We're going to learn from this. But not only do you learn from it, who you told also learns that you're somebody who's going to be honest with them. And that they don't have to worry about you. Because if you do screw something up, you're going to give them a call and say, hey, screwed up again. And if there's a pattern of you screwing up consistently and you're afraid you're going to lose your job, here's an idea. Back to that mirror. How can I do better and stop screwing this up before I get fired? Because ultimately, you're going to fucking get fired anyways. Mm-hmm. So learn something from it. It sucks. It's not fun. But it can be. That's up to you. And it's not fun. It's never fun. I'm stupid on the daily.
Same.
But I learn from it. And how much of it do I admit to you? Probably too much.
I'm going to say all of it, but I don't know what you're holding back.
Exactly.
Well, I think that to that point is how important it is to have people in your corner. And to have a small circle.
With good advice, not opinions.
Not opinions. Yeah, good advice. And every time somebody says, hey, I want to get your take on this, or hey, can you give me your opinion on this? I will always joke and say, I am a professional opinion giver. I will happily give you my opinion.
Well, everybody gives opinions as a professional.
Don't they? So sometimes I get paid to give my opinion. So
Me too.
Yeah,
Well, I'd like to call that advice.
it is advice. I know. Yeah, it's advice. But I think it's important to have those people that you can have those conversations with. And that was another flaw of mine was I always was so independent that I had to do it myself. And whether I knew it or not, I always pretended that I did. I wish I knew today what I claimed to know in my 20s.
I wish I knew half. I wish I knew a quarter of what I knew now than in my 20s. If I knew a quarter, 25% more than I did in my 20s. Hindsight. Again, who hasn't thought this?
Well, I think
But it starts with, honestly, I'm going to say it again, it starts with you. Like, don't go seeking out somebody in your corner. Like, help you first, then seek outside help. You got to admit to yourself first. That's where it starts.
Well, I like that you said that because to me, that is the dichotomy is no one is coming to save you. And the other side of that is nobody is going to accept being your friend or your mentor or your colleague or whatever the fill in the blank until they believe that you are taking responsibility and being accountable for yourself. Otherwise, you're always at arm's length. You're like, oh, fucking Greg here. Let's see what he's going to complain about today. Oh, I can't believe Greg's still here. Can't believe he's not got fired.
Well, especially when it comes to advice, right? Like if you go seeking advice, that's awesome. First of all, that you're open and willing to seek advice. But nothing's worse than when you seek advice and then you come back to that person with more advice and they're like, hey, how did that first thing go? And you're like, yeah, to fuck with that, I need some new advice.
Mm-hmm.
That aggravates me. I'm like, so you won't listen to the last thing I told you, but you're going to listen to this one? Here's an idea. Go find some other advice. There's my advice for you.
Go find somebody that's going to tell you what you want to hear.
Right. That's the nucleus of that.
Mm-hmm.
Right? That if you that frustrates me so much. That's what it is. But that's what it is. Like you're ultimately trying to just get the answer you want to hear. You're not learning anything from that. You're pacifying that internal narrative of whatever it is you're trying to support.
And people will seek that out until they find it, and then that's who they'll latch onto. They will seek people out that tell them what they want to hear, and now they're friends. Your friends have to challenge you. I interrupt people all the time if I feel like they're tiptoeing around something that they want to say. I will just tell them, don't tell me what you think I want to hear.
Just tell me.
Just tell me. And it disarms them, and they tell me because most people are kind and don't want to be offensive. And it's like, no, tell me what you're thinking.
I'd rather just take the offensive and sort out the rest later.
Yeah, right?
Here's an idea. Don't take it as offensive.
Yeah. I don't want to have to decipher this dance that we have of you trying to tell me something. Just give it to me,
Again, fear of the unknown, right? You don't know how that person's going to react. And you
that's
get
right.
A narrative of you had some story in your head about what they could and might say, and
hey, how many?
Get into that.
Yeah, I was going to say how many things have actually come true that you've worried about happening? Like none.
Yeah, I've lost a lot of sleep worrying about what could happen in a conversation and it going the opposite direction. I'm like, well, that was for nothing. Very few times has it gone the other way where I'm like, oh, it should go pretty good and it goes terrible.
Yeah. Yeah. Same. I don't have any, at least that have scarred me enough to been like, well, that went worse than I anticipated. It's like, no, it usually goes better because we gravitate towards worst case scenario. And then, for me, then I just pile on and I'm basically cruel to myself until I solve the problem. But recognizing that, again, like the dichotomy of no one is coming versus you need to have a support group, like they're tied together with this thread that is you. But you can't ask for help until you help yourself. And when you seek advice, fucking take it. Like actually do
Advice.
the thing. Advice.
Again, advice, not opinions.
Not
You can get yourself in trouble executing opinions.
That's right. But yeah, I don't know. It was just, like you said, it was this cool trip that I got to experience, and it made me really happy to be back in front of the customer with a tool bag in my hand and just doing the thing, doing the simple thing of doing my best. And knowing
I think
that
that's good for anybody.
well, I know now that no matter what poor son of a bitch walks into those houses, I have set that standard.
Yes, you have.
You know, God forbid the plumber or the roofing company or anybody come in after me. Like, I've set that standard. And I think that was like what I thoroughly enjoyed, was like getting to set that standard, and was like, yeah, this is simple.
Again, it's nice to put it in perspective, right? Like to where you started and when it was so hard to now you can go back and look back and say, wow, it's crazy how simple this is, but you got to start somewhere.
Yeah, you do. You do. But cool. Well, we're on a tight schedule today. So
Always.
I like Wednesdays. They are fun. But anyway, you can find us on the gram. People say the gram. I'm just trying it out. Feels weird saying it, you know. I had Blue Collar Insiders. You can shoot us a message on there. You can email us at thetradesmanexperience@gmail.com. Thank you so much for spending this time with us. Get out there, get shit done. Be proud to be a tradesman. See ya.